Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Kratitam Purana Muninam Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitam Vridavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatvam Anusantatami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshini Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pulla Ravindayata Patra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Prapanna Parijataya Totra Vetraika Panaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Geetam Rudatuhe Namaha. I want to say this one more new shloka introduced for this chapter. Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripatamaham vande paramananda madhavam. Yam brahma varunendra rudra marutaha stunvanti divyaistavaihi vedai sangapada kramopanishadaihi gayanti yam samagaha dhyanavastita tatkatena manasa pashyanti yam yoginaha yasyantam na vidhusura suraganaha Devaya tasmai namaha, Devaya tasmai namaha, Sarvadharman parityajya, Mamekam sharanam vraja, Aham tva sarva papebhyaha, Mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. So we just started with the 8th chapter last week. And this chapter is named as Akshara Brahma Yoga. As you know, we are entering into the second phase of the 3 phases of Bhagavad Gita. And in this phase, really, we are introduced to the higher power, So that's why Akshara Brahma, which is imperishable, So everything else is perishable. Brahman is the only entity which is imperishable. So this is what we started seeing. And this is primarily based actually on the last 2 shlokas of the 7th chapter. So in the last 7th chapter, when we saw the 2 verses, we were actually introduced to about 6 technical words. And the whole idea of introducing the technical words is really, Krishna wanting Arjuna to now focus on the higher power, get him out of just thinking about, me alone, So with that focus in mind, he wants to also sharpen Arjuna's intellect. So which is why he goes into a little more deeper concept of even what karma means. So he introduces all these chapters, all these verses, all these concepts in the 2 shlokas. And then finally, he also tells him that, when the time comes for you to complete your journey, prayana kale, even he uses the word prayana here. Prayana doesn't mean just, like visits from India to US or back, but it's really the journey of the Sukshma Sharira, the journey of our, the Jiva. the journey of the jiva as it goes through this one. So he reminds him that as you are exiting out of this physical body, you have to think about that Ishvara. So Ishvara Smaranam, that is the most important aspect. And so because of that, he wants him to start defocusing from everything that he is, who Arjuna thinks he is, and focusing more on that Ishvara Smaranam. So that is really the focus on where this chapter goes into. It's a pretty technical chapter. There is also a lot of upasanas that are given, where upasana means that sadhanas which allows you to focus on the higher power, on the higher aspect of Ishvara itself. So, and it actually, this chapter culminates at the end with the 12th chapter, where it's all focus on, Ishvara, non-Narayana, and, or Brahman in the form of the Saguna Brahman, the qualities and everything. So I just thought, for reflection today, we probably should think about, where does this focus start? How does this focus, focus start? Defocusing from really our own self to remembering that Ishvara. How does it start? So it basically, starts with first recognizing the concept of happiness does not lie in the world. It actually lies within myself, right? And so it starts with this. So I have to start thinking that the world is actually neither the cause for happiness, nor is it even the cause of sorrow. Because today when we're living in this world, we always work in such a way that we are looking for the world for happiness, and we also blame the world for our sorrow. We don't think that, that I myself am responsible for all this. We don't get into that concept. So then the question comes is, how do I then become that cause for both of them, that cause for happiness and sorrow? That can happen only when I change the understanding of who I am. That's very important. So if I clearly understand my own nature, then I will also understand where this cause for happiness and sorrow really lies. Like, for example, when the classic example of this rope and the snake, when I know that something is only a rope and not a snake, then I immediately understand that the whole fear that I had of the rope being the snake was in my mind, right? So too, I have to clearly understand that this cause for happiness and sorrow is not in the world. I've always thought that this world is the cause for happiness and sorrow. Just like I think about that snake that, I superimpose my own thought of what is happiness and sorrow on that rope, and I see actually the snake. So I have to slowly withdraw myself from this world and focus on myself. And that is the most important thing. And this is where, he talks about, Krishna says that ultimately I have to have that disengagement from samsara. I have to have freedom from the samsara. I have to think that the samsara is really not the cause of all these problems. Easier said than done. And this becomes even more apparent for us as we are exiting out of this body, right? So this Jara and Marana, those are the last two stages of all the 6 stages that we go through in this life. And in these 2 stages are really the most difficult part of our stage, because we really don't want to die, we don't think that there is a point where I am going to exit out of this body. So this is why Krishna reminds us that, at the end of the day, this will happen. And when that happens, start now itself to start thinking about me. Who am I? How am I part of this whole world? And ultimately, this whole world is nothing but me. So start doing that. And therefore, he says, Mam Ashritya, start by taking that shelter in me. And that is the only way you're going to be rid of this samsara. Because at some point, I have to give up this baggage. I've come with this baggage into the world. And I have to give up the suitcase. I think Shardanti uses that example sometimes, a whole baggage we come with one suitcase even to America, right? And then finally we build such a big sort of, I'm not saying empire, but it's a big empire for us because we accumulate so much. But at some point I have to give up and then get back. So that is the most difficult, and that is the most important thing that has been. That is why he says that finally Ishvara Smaranam is the most important thing. Focus on that. So I just thought I'll give you that reflection time to think about here. Any questions or thoughts before we get into the chapter itself?
I have a question. At one side, we keep saying we have to do our duties and we have to, unless we do the stuff, how will we get rid of the baggage? We have to do stuff in order to get rid of the baggage, right?
True, but simple example, like for example, Geeta, I mean, when you are organizing all the trips and everything, right? And I know in your house, you have your office in your house itself. And but at some point you say, it's 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, I'm done. My duty is done what I had to do for all my customers. Now I'm done and I have to do what my other duties. So you are able to do that in a very simple form. So too, you have to start thinking of that in your own life also, that I am done. I'm done as my duty. See,
So
at the end of
does it come with age? Because we have to take care of our children and we have to earn money to take care of them, and they have to grow up, they have to go to college and all that. So we have to keep doing our, I don't know, duty. I don't know whether it's a duty or
right, there is enough shlokas in our shastras where, like, one of them which says, the minute you see the face of your grandchild, the house, it says, meaning me trying to say that not physically, if somebody can leave the house, that's a great thing. But even within the house, you have to say, you know what, I'm not going to worry about it. The children are there, they can take care of it. It's a very, very hard thing to do. But, or even if somebody is taking care of somebody's taking care of the grandchildren, right? I have to still tell myself, you know what, if I'm not there, life will go on.
No, I'm not even talking about grandchildren. I'm just talking about the regular children. When they are there, we concentrate on the children and we have to keep doing stuff in order to take care of them, and until they grow up and until they get married. It's our responsibility, right? We have to do our duty. We cannot, so that we have to get rid of that baggage which we have by doing that, right?
Right. The focus here is more about old age and death.
Okay. That's all I wanted to know. Okay, got you. Okay.
I mean, when you're young, as a young parent, you have to do everything. There is just no about
So
it.
it's mainly concentrating on old age.
Correct. Mostly, if I can develop that attitude within myself from a very young age itself, that at the end of the day, that's why I use the example of snake and the rope. From the beginning itself, if I have a very clear idea of really what is the purpose of my life, where does this happiness really lie, then it becomes very easy to be engaged in my duty, at the same time disengage myself when it is not needed. The problem for many of us is that sometimes we're too engaged in the duty and we're not able to disengage ourselves. That's where the problem comes. And that's why the freedom from samsara is trying to show that whole baggage of duty and responsibilities we have.
Right.
We think that we are the most needed, but you can test it out for one day. If you leave a certain duty or something, how things will happen. So, so in shlokas 29 and 30 is where of the last chapter we saw this word Jara Marana Mokshaya, where Krishna is reminding Arjuna that at the end of the day, when you want to be liberated from Jara and Marana, from old age and death, that can happen only when you totally surrender to Mam Ashritya. So take refuge in me as best as you can. And for that, you have to know what my true nature is. And that is why he says, Te Brahma Tad Viduhu. So know the Brahman, while still engrossed, Kritsnasam Adhyatma, while still engrossed in the individuality, while engaging themselves in full actions. So for liberation, those who strive as best, while still engrossed in the individuality and while engaging themselves in action. So of course, when he finished this chapter, he was referring to that jnani, because it's only when you come to the level of understanding that, we talked about the 4 levels, right? Chatur Vida Bhajante Mam. That jnani is that level when the person has really understood the concept of, Brahman and Adhyatman. So he, of course, even though he's saying at that level, it's important for us to recognize this knowledge and, evolve ourselves to becoming that, to that level. So that is why he's trying, he mentions this. And then in shloka 29, he introduces 3 word terms. In 30, introduces 3 more terms, which is, Adhibhutam, Adidaivam, and Adiyagnya. So 6 terms he introduces, and therefore that's why I mentioned that these 4 shlokas are very technical in nature. Sometimes it may seem a little, there is not much of an emotion in it, but basically, for any, even any science, we have to study some amount of technical stuff. So that is what here he's saying. So here he's saying, Sa Sadhibhuta Adidaivam Mam, Sadhiyagnyam Chaye Viduhu, which is Adhibhutam, Adidaivam, and Adiyagnyam. So what are all they? That we will learn. And then Prayana Kale Cha Apimam, Te Vidhu Yukta Cheshta, Viduhu Yukta Chetasaha. So even though near the time you come to know me, if the mind remains steadfast. So again, if you look at it, here he uses the word mind here, chetasaha, ultimately the whole, if you look at it, as somebody said beautifully, the whole world is actually me only. It is only my mind that creates this connection with the world. When I control this mind, that mind can remain steadfast, and that mind can actually focus on much bigger things. So that is why these 6 terminologies are introduced, and we'll be going deeper into each one of them. What is Brahma, what is Adhyatmam, what is Karma. We learned what is Karma before in the 3rd chapter, but here we will learn a little more deeper meaning of what the Karma actually means. Okay. So with the 8th chapter, basically there are, just to give you a preview of the chapter itself, we first in verses number, this also has, it's a small chapter, 28 shlokas. And first we talk about the nature of basically Brahman and Ishvara, and then how the importance of remembering at the, while, we are exiting the body, I guess. And here there is a lot of sadhanas which is mentioned. And then what happens to the jiva? The jiva doesn't mean just the physical person that we see each other. Jiva actually means, in English, you can call that as a soul. But I prefer to use the word jiva because jiva is much more complete, So jiva as a what happens to the jiva? when it exits? How is this part of this whole cycle of life? And then what is the life? So this is how the breakup is here. Okay. And so in shlokas 1, we did 1 last week. We'll be doing 2 also, and then we'll analyze it. Okay. I have an example which will help you direct your attention to that part. So I'll chant 1 and 2 together. Arjuna uvacha kim tat brahma kim adhyatmam kim karma purushottama adhibhutam cha kim proktam adhidaivam kim uchyate. I'll chant both of them, then I'll come back to it. Adhiyajna katham kotra dehesmin madhusudana prayana kale cha katham neyosi niyatatmabhihi. So here, basically, it's a repeat of the 2 shlokas from the 7th chapter, where, after Krishna introduces 6 terms, Arjuna, of course, now, he's really getting into understanding what Krishna is saying here. So he's repeating the 6 terms. He's asking Krishna, so tell me, Kim tat Brahma? What is that Brahman? Kim adhyatmam? What is that adhyatma? Kim karma? Purushottama, referring to Krishna. Oh, Purushottama, tell me what is action also. Then adhibhutam cha kim proktam. What is it that they call as adhibhutam? And then what is adhidaivam? Kim uchyate. So tell me about the 6 terminologies. And then in the second shloka, adhiyajnaha. So tell me then also what is adhiyajnaha? And then also dehe asmin madhusudana, here in this body. Who is this adhiyajna in this body? And then how is it at the time of death? You're called as self-controlled, meaning that, how can one be really a self-controlled person at the time of death? So very powerful questions. Does that mean that I really enjoy everything, and just in the last 1 week before I'm going to die, I can give up? That is not going to happen, right? So he wants to make sure that these questions are asked. So very powerful questions. We will try to understand them, but I thought what we can do is we can understand this by this example of how a movie, okay, how is a movie, when we go to a theater, we go to a theater to see a movie only because, maybe Ponniyin Selvam or any of these movies, we heard so much about Aishwarya Rai or anyone, and I want to see that. We don't think beyond that, right? So today we just walk through a little bit on the mechanics of how this movie works. Now here, you see this whole thing, very, of course, old technology. Today we have much, much newer technologies, but primarily this is how it really works, So how does a movie projector work? So you see a projector, it has this bright light, which you see this light thing here, isn't it? So this bright light actually, it shines on a strip of the movie. You have seen the strips. I definitely cannot use this example for our young folks, but we all have seen these big, in Chennai, we lived close to one Sun Theatre, it's called Sun Theatre. And I remember when walking by, they would have thrown a lot of the movie strips outside. So you have this bright light which shines on a strip of the film. Then the strip of film, it contains, series of images that are really shot, by the camera, right? And then what happens is this strip, and then somebody, of course, there's I think a dark room and all this, and they make all these strips and everything. The strips are made, and the strips has everything frozen on those strips, right? And now when the light shines on the strip, what happens is, depending upon the speed, there is a certain speed by which it is run, the light shines on it, and there's literally, you need about 50 to 100 of these small strips in order to actually create a scene on the image. So let's say, we are watching a movie about somebody called Aditya, an Aditya, a young boy. He is, he's slowly, he's just a young teen. He's just going to school. So he wakes up in the morning, he has to have his breakfast. He has to go to school. And then he comes back home. He plays with his friends and then he goes to sleep. Very simple movie. That's the whole movie you're actually watching. And there is all these strips that, which depicts this movie. Okay. So now we'll have to stretch our imagination a little bit, in the sense, you have this light which shines on Aditya. Okay. Now, as this light shines on Aditya, we know that Aditya was actually frozen. Aditya was totally frozen in all these images. But as soon as you shine this light on the strip, what happens is Aditya comes to life. Correct? Until then, he was totally frozen. How did he come to life? It was because, so what do you think is happening here? How does he come to life?
Light shines on.
Exactly. So without that light, Aditya would not have had anything to do, isn't it? So the light that shines on now Aditya becomes a person by himself now. He develops an identity of his own, and he actually even thinks that he is the one who is waking up, he is the one who's going to school, and he's doing everything, right? So there is this one portion of this light which has become Aditya. Okay? Actually, the light was there, a small portion of the light shines on Aditya, and that small portion of the light, Aditya, that portion of light which is falling on that image called Aditya, now thinks it is Aditya. Correct? Without that light, there was no Aditya. But that light, with that image, what has been done, this is what Aditya it becomes. So far, so good. Understood that part of it?
So does the light thinks that the light is Aditya?
That light which shines only on Aditya.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Now that light which is on Aditya develops the identity of Aditya. You have, let's assume this figure. I could not really get a nice picture of Aditya on the screen, but I got this. But you can.
Yeah. Good.
So at least you have now this light. Then you have the light which is falling on here. Now this light which is in Aditya thinks that it is Aditya, and it starts waking up, having the breakfast, going to school, having fun with his friends and coming back. All that is happening. But actually, what is it? It is nothing but the same light from here. Isn't it?
Right.
I hope you're able to see where I'm going with this whole example.
Right.
So that kuti light which fell on that image of Aditya on that strip, actually, suddenly thinks that it is, he's the one who is having the breakfast. He's the one who's going to school, and he's the one who's enjoying his time with his friends. All this, he also gets very happy when he's playing. He gets very upset when somebody pushes him down. All this is happening only because of this bigger light, which became a smaller light, and that smaller light identified itself with the body. and starts to think that he or she is the maker of this whole thing. Got it? So that is, when I started the whole chapter today, I mentioned earlier about samsar and about how I compared that to the snake in the rope, right? And how I said ultimately the whole happiness and sorrow lies only in samsara. Just like here, the entire thing comes to life, entire thing where Aditya thinks this is that light, thinks that this is who he is because of his identification with the body, his identification with what the body's memory, the thoughts has been there. But all those things were not there before. It just, came to life that way. So I just wanted to, just hold on to this thing, because we're going to connect it to all these 6 terminologies. Because if I don't give this example, it will just seem very kind of dull and boring, right? So that's why I'm bringing this example here. So in shloka number 3 and 4, we will go into a little more details about really what this concept. So in this thing, we talked about Adiyajna. So he's asking this example. He's asking that we did those 2. 1 second. I think it was shloka 3 and 1 and 2. We did 1, and then 2 was basically the 6 things here. Now in shloka 3 and 4, we will be actually taking this step further, So that is, we'll actually look into the concept of Brahman itself, about how ultimately this light which you're seeing, is connected to Brahman, is the analogy we're giving to Brahman, because ultimately the light, when it was shining on that strip, right, it is just pure light. It had no, it did not really create Aditya or anything. The light is just pure light. It has no shape, no qualities, nothing about it which would have given you an idea that it is creating Aditya. So it is just like a witness to the whole thing. So that is the concept that we are coming to here. We'll try to understand this a little more. I'll come back to this example. So let's chant shlokas 3 and 4, because now in 3 and 4, you will see, in a sense, Krishna addresses at least 5 or 6 of the questions. There's only one question out of all this, actually 7 questions, 6 questions technical, and the other one is this prayana kale, what happens when I die? That's what Arjuna's question was. So 6 questions Krishna basically addresses in this first 4 shlokas. The last question about what happens, when I die, what should I do? That is the sequence for the whole chapter of chapter 8. Okay. So we'll just chant 3 and 4. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Aksharam Brahma Paramam. Aksharam Brahma Paramam. Svabhavodhyatma Uchyate. Svabhavodhyatma Uchyate. Bhuta Bhavodbhavakaraha. Bhuta Bhavodbhavakaraha. Visarga Karma Sangitaha. Visarga Karma Sangitaha. So that is one where he's saying Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. He's trying to give him now that Arjuna has asked, Krishna is explaining the whole thing. He's saying Brahman is the imperishable. And that's why I put that example of how the light by itself, which is the analogy here, it's the imperishable. So that's the analogy here. Svabhavaha adhyatmam uchyate. It is said that Jiva is the entity present in the individual plane. So again, Krishna is explaining all these terminologies. Bhuta Bhava Udbhava Karaha. So the cause of the origin of the existence of beings. Udbhava, origin of the Bhuta, which is all these beings, and Bhuta Bhava, existence of the beings. That cause, that is what is called as karma. Okay? Visarga Karma Sangitam are those actions which are offered as sacrifice. Okay? So again, very technical, and I will compare it to the third chapter. Maybe for next week, I'm going to bring that whole cycle of creation, which we discussed in third chapter. So you can see how karma was described then and how that is connected to how karma is said here. Okay. So this is the third shloka. Now let's go to the fourth one. In the fourth one, so 3 out of the questions actually is answered in shloka number 3. And the other questions, Adhibhutam Adhidaiva, is explained in shloka number 4. Okay. Adhibhutam ksharo bhavaha. Adhibhutam ksharo bhavaha. Purushashchadi daivatam. Purushashchadi daivatam. Adhiyajnyohamevatra. Adhiyajnyohamevatra. Dehe dehabhritambara. Dehe dehabhritambara. So, the 3 things that he explained about in the previous shloka, now he's coming to what is adhibhutam. So adhibhutam, he says, ksharaha bhavaha. So these are perishable compared to Brahman, which is akshara. He says adhibhutam, the cross plane entity, is a perishable, or the virat. Perishable, this whole world, this is the virat. Purushaha cha adhidaiva. So the subtle plane is the Purushaha, and Adhiyajnam aham eva atra. The causal entity is I alone here in this body, O noblest of the embodied. Adhiyajnam, which is the thing in me. So Adhibhutam, that is Adhiyajnam. So we will look at this again a little more, maybe in my next week. Today I did not connected each one because I wanted to give you this example of this projector and all that. So Adhibhutam, Adhidaivatam, Adhiyajnam, and so these are the other 6. Finally, the 6 of them he's telling. So let's come to this examples. So from here in shloka number 3, in shloka 3, we had here said this Aksharam Brahma. Okay, so Aksharam Brahma can be compared to this light here. Okay, the light itself, there is no, what should I say? It is just pure light. Okay, there is no form, there's no shape, nothing. But then how did Aditya get created? Right, that is a question. So the light can be compared to Brahman here. Now we are coming to the concepts of karma, adhyatma, all this. So let's think about this light here, and how this light, while projection on the screen, creates this image. Okay, this image of whether it's Aditya or whether it is anything. So karma actually now refers to here the portion of this light. As I said, there is a small portion of the light which became Aditya, correct? Now, suppose Aditya was, wearing some kind of a blue shirt and was walking on this green lawn here, on this green forest here, okay? So a portion of that light which was coming out of the movie projector, it shines as blue, as you can see here. Let's imagine, not just a blue shirt of Aditya, but even this blue ocean or whatever you see here. And so that portion shines blue. And then you have one portion which is, which becomes green, right? So that portion of light, which now identifies with this one and is coming as blue, that is Adhyatma. Okay. Just like, for example, let's take in our, or we call this as Atman, right? So you know how to distinguish Brahman and Atman. So that portion of light which is in each one of us, individual things, right? Which gives us that ability to see, do everything, that is Adhyatma. Okay, so now you know what is Aksharam Brahman. Okay, Aksharam means imperishable. And that imperishable Brahman is like this pure light, but a small portion of that light in each one of us, which makes us who we are by its identification through whatever this one, that is, you can call it Adhyatma or Atman. Okay. So far, so good, at least with these two concepts. Okay. Now the question comes is, what is karma? Okay.
Hey, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Over here, Adhyatma, when we are talking about Adhyatma over here, the Atman is that the lower self, right? We are talking, it's the Brahman?
No. Atman is not lower self. Like, that's why I use
it's a Jiva. Can we understand? No.
No, it is, think about, that's why, I use this example of that light. The light is pure light, isn't it?
Yes.
But that small, one portion of that small light, when it is identified with the substrate, whatever you're identifying it with, like in this example, one portion of the light is identifying with the green forests, and it shows up as green forests. Now, without that light, you wouldn't have seen that green forest, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, there is a small portion of that light, and there's one portion of the light which identifies with the blue thing, and it shows up as blue color. Now, let's take that step further. That small amount of light which is attached to that green forest now starts moving in everything. Correct?
Yes.
In the movie. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Now, what is it that made that particular tree in that forest move? It is that piece of light, isn't it? That piece of light which attached itself to the tree and made it move. Without
move in the sense that the leaves are moving. Is that what we are talking about?
Correct. Exactly.
Okay.
The leaves are moving. If the tree is growing, all that.
Okay.
So that
isn't that due to the movement of the strip? See, because of the strip.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
The light goes through the strip, and we could see that object in the front. So the movement of that object which is seen is due to the movement. The light stays constant because this moves, the reel moves, we see the movement also in the projection.
That is true. That is true. So that is the mechanics.
Okay.
What we're talking about, the mechanics. But when you are watching the movie and everything comes to light, everything becomes so real.
Correct.
Okay? But everything becomes real, you are actually no longer thinking about the mechanics. Oh yeah, this is moving and that is why. You don't think about that, right?
Right.
Now, what basically happened was a small portion of the light which got projected that actually brought life for that character.
Correct.
Whether it is a tree here or whether it is Aditya playing or anything, isn't it? So that small portion of light which attached itself to Aditya is the Adhyatma.
Oh.
Okay.
Mhm.
And that small portion of the light which get attached to the tree is Adhyatma, is the Adhyatma of the tree. It's the Adhyatma of the sea, like that.
So, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, ask your question so that we, because these are very, very important concepts.
So, if there are 10 different people and light shines all the 10 at the same time, so each one is Adhyatma
of that, correct.
For that particular person or particular light. Adhyatma of the light is called Adhyatma, or the project.
The light is Akshara Brahman.
Akshara Brahman. Okay.
I'm still stuck on the Jiva and Atman over here. How is I mean, if we are saying that the essence, the Akshar Brahman, is reflecting on this stula sharira, or this innate object called the water or the tree, because of the shine, because of the essence of that light that is reflecting on the tree, has given it the form, the growth, the changes in the tree. So how is it not the jiva, and how is it?
We will come to the jiva when we discuss about adhibhutam.
Oh, okay.
But stay on that thing. I'll just explain that stula sharira and the making the stula sharira coming to life and everything is because there is a small portion of the light which brought it to life, right?
Yes.
So that small portion of the bigger portion is this Akshara Brahman. Okay?
Correct. Yes.
Again, the word Akshara means imperishable. I just want to, that is the only Brahman that we'll be talking about, because just like that pure light had absolutely no shape, color, anything, so too Akshara Brahman has nothing. But that same Akshara Brahman, when a small portion of that Akshara Brahman gets identified with Aditya or with this tree in this picture, for example, and makes it move and all that, that small portion is called Adhyatma. Okay. Now, it's only that light. Don't worry about the Stula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Jiva part of it, none of those. What is that small, or you can even, in very layman terms, maybe we can say it is the energy which brought that tree to life. If
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you can differentiate between karma and adhyatma, maybe we can understand a little bit more from your experience.
Maybe, no, but here I just want to first make sure this, because you have to think about the whole big portion is Brahman. A very small portion of that Brahman in each one of us is bringing things to life. Okay. Because now when you come to karma is a little different from adhyatma. Okay. Karma is actually, and I'll be comparing that to the movie projection also. Okay.
Is Akshara Brahman and Brahman are same?
Yes. Akshara Brahman and Brahman is the same only.
So that Akshara Brahman is the light, and that little portion of light falling on one particular one is Adhyatma.
Correct.
That's so far.
Correct. That's all. Yes. The reason that's all it is. And that's why first I used the example of just Aditya. Now I expanded it to that bigger picture that you can see there, because it's a small portion of the light in everything. So that's why I showed that. Now,
can we say Adhyatma is part of Akshara Brahman?
Yes.
Can we say it's part of Akshara Brahman?
Absolutely, you can see that.
Okay.
Yeah. You can also for now think about that whole light being divided into millions of Adhyatma, and that Adhyatma brings everything to life.
Got it.
Okay, so now let us talk about what is karma. So karma is actually the action that is needed in order to bring about this creation. So if there was only that pure light, imagine if that movie projector, there is no strip at all, and there's just pure light, then there is no creation, right? What is it? There has to be some effort that needs to be put in order to show the movie itself. That whole movie creation part of it, okay? There is some effort that is brought about, and that effort, karma means what? Karma means action. Karma means the effort that we are putting in order to create a change, right? That is how we define what karma means. So karma is that force, if you want, that brings about the creation of every entity in this universe. Now, how do we understand that with this projector example? Okay, so it is actually that now when, that's why I was smiling a little bit, where when Gita was saying, it is that strip, which is, the thousands of strips, thousands of images that is going, right? So that effort that was made in order to create that 1,000 strips to create 1 minute of the movie, right? That is karma. That is karma as far as the projector is concerned. Okay. Now, these are very difficult concepts actually in terms of this, but I can only explain that with this beautiful example of this movie projector, because only then you will really understand. These are very, imagine that karma, the way we understand karma is just a simple action. But now you multiply this in, I don't know, not million times more to see how this whole world has come about. That is this aspect of karma. Small actions put together to create this entire world. Okay, that is that is the karma from a universe perspective. That's the karma at the level of Brahman and Adhyatmam and karma. At the level of the movie, it's just the projector showing the light and the strips moving and creating this whole movie effect. At the level of Ishvara, okay, the same thing, Ishvara, or let's take Brahman, but we prefer to use the word Ishvara because it's only at the level of Ishvara that the whole creation happens. At the level of Brahman, nothing is there. Even as I'm using these words, I hope you're able to relate it to, say, at the level of just that pure light coming out of this projector, nothing is happening. Nothing can, light can shine whatever it wants, but there's no creation. But that light, along with that movie strips, together, creation comes about. So that effort or the act of creating that whole movie is called as karma. If you look at the movie part of it, before the movie comes to life, there is this whole thing. If you go to, especially if you go to Florida and you go to Disney land there, when you go to this actual place where they show the number of drawings the artists have to do, in order to finally create this. So that is the karma that they are putting in. They're putting it into the design, and then that design being projected. So it's the force, it's the effort that takes something which is yet unmanifest. Those frozen images on the strip are yet haven't come to life. isn't it?
Correct.
But we come
So
to
are you-
life with that
So are you-
effort. Yeah, go ahead.
So are you saying the light and the movement, everything put together is karma?
The light is not karma.
Huh.
It is only the action of the light falling on the movie strip and bringing the whole thing into it. Is wherever action is involved, that is karma.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
In other words, we can say that strip is kind of karma.
There was a lot of karma that went into making the strip.
Correct. Correct.
I think there is a lot of karma where the strip has now come to life. So initially there was a lot of karma as far as the movie projection is concerned. There was a lot of karma that went into putting something into an unmanifest form, right? Because in order to freeze it, there was a lot of karma involved first. Then to unfreeze it and show into a movie, there's a lot of karma involved. Correct? So that's the thing. This is actually very powerful for us to appreciate this entire world, things that we take it so much for granted can be understood if we think about the whole mechanics of amount of effort that Ishvara has put in to make this world and to understand this. And here we get affected by small things that happen,
Very powerful message, but well put forth. Very nicely put forth.
It's
very good.
So it is our own, I mean, if you look at this light which is shining from here and it is showing this, just a small portion of, this trees, mountains, river, everything is there. And imagine if each one of them, so long as it's trees and mountains and everything, they know exactly what they're doing, and everything is in place. But it is we human beings, because of our own identity, I would say, our own false identity. Like, let's take this example, what I gave about Aditya. And so long as that light, was pure light shining on Aditya, it was fine. But the minute that small portion of light, which gave Aditya the ability to speak and everything, decides that now this small light, I am different than the bigger light. Okay? Immediately there is problems. Because that small light thinks, oh, I am Aditya, I'm different than others. Okay? So that is what is happening to all of us. Each one of us forget from where we came from. If I can only think that I am that big light, I am that Akshara Brahman. But no, I think that I am this Adhyatma identified with the equipments that I have. And that is where the movie can go on and on and on. If the movie can be done just like that, if I totally understand, but then sometimes movies go long because of everything that happened, the whole drama that happens where each one of the Adhyatmas think that they're different from each other.
I have a question. Supposing if Adhyatma, the small portion of light, falls straight on, if there is an Aditya right there, or a tree is right there, and if the light falls directly, I'm not talking about karma. Karma is not involved. No strip. Straight, it falls on. I'm not talking about movie theater. And in the real world, if the light falls on that particular item, for example, Aditya, what do you call that?
It's called as Akshara Brahman.
No, that is light. Akshar Brahman is the light. No,
correct.
What do you call that Aditya is?
Aditya, that is Adibhutam. That is what Adibhutam is.
Oh.
So
Okay,
when
okay.
Suvarna asks this question about Jiva, right?
Hmm.
So each and every entity in this world is the Jiva. So who is the Jiva? Jiva is the whole package, the package of Sthula, Sukshma, Karana, Sharira. All that is the Jiva portion. And this Jiva is Kshara. Kshara means perishable. Akshara is the imperishable. And that is the terminology that was used in here. Adhibhutam Ksharaha Bhavaha. It is perishable. Okay. So that is why we're coming to this thing of Adhibhutam. So Adhibhutam is the perishable existence. It is the one which is everything in this universe is perishable, right? Everything in the universe, whatever we can see through our naked eyes, all that is perishable.
So that is the reason we do Akshara Abhyasam for kids, before they go to college or anything, because knowledge is imperishable. So that's the reason.
That's why it's called Akshara Abhyas. I didn't know that. Okay.
I'm asking you, I don't know.
No. We call it Abhyasam, but I didn't know that it was called Akshara Abhyasa.
Isn't it for little kids? Akshara Abhyasa. For the little ones, they call Akshara Abhyasam, I think. I don't know.
Right.
I think
right.
Because aksharas are alphabets. That's why they call it Akshara Abhyasa.
Very good. Excellent. Yeah, that is the meaning of Akshara Abhyas in that context. Yes. Yeah, you're right. You're right. So, so now coming to how does it refer to in the movie example? So in the movie example, everything that Aditya is doing, when he's going to the classroom, when he's eating his food, everything, all those are Adhibhutam. Okay. And the difference between Akshara Brahman and this is that all the Adhibhutam is all perishable. It's Kshara. They all have a beginning and an end. Like when the movie starts, you come to know suddenly that the classroom exists. And when the movie ends, the classroom is no more, right? Everything goes back. So those are all perishable things. Okay. So that is the aspect of Adhibhutam. So that much we have. Oh my goodness, I didn't realize it is 9:36. I still have, this whole. I wanted to explain a little more on this Karma Sangeetam and this, and then, of course, difference between Adhyagnya, all that. But we'll go into a little more details about the movie projection and these things as before we move to Shloka 5 next week. Okay. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kasyat dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Let me stop the live and I wanted to